SpongeBob SquarePants is the greatest show of all time. Where most people see it as a kid's show, I see it as a very adult-oriented show disguised as a kid's show. When I was a kid, I used to focus on things such as, SpongeBob SquarePants, so funny, But now, as an adult, I seem to focus on some of the more pressing issues. So I've been rewatching SpongeBob, and I've made a few observations that I think you guys would find interesting, beginning with, what is the secret Krabby Patty formula? Seaweed. It's seaweed. Let's get into my evidence, alright? So in season 1, the first episode in which Plankton is actually a character in, titled Plankton. Plankton takes over SpongeBob's body and he brings him to this device that says the ingredients of whatever he throws into it. He tests this device with seaweed.
Seaweed. 50% sea, 50% weed.
Shortly after, SpongeBob goes into detail describing every single ingredient of the Krabby Patty, and he says this.
All secretly steaming between two fluffy seaweed seed buns.
I believe that the Krabby Patty is made to symbolize either drugs or addiction. There's literally an episode in which Squidward finally has a Krabby Patty. Dude goes ape shit wild and fucking ODs on it, and the doctor is like,
yeah, I remember my first Krabby Patty.
This would actually make a lot of sense, considering every single character in Bikini Bottom is shown to be as really ridiculously stupid. All the while, Squidward seems to be the only character that is normal. See, in SpongeBob, Squidward plays the role of the straight guy. And what I mean by this is he's a normal character. He's the only character who's really aware of all the ridiculousness happening, and he calls it all out.
Pizza? Of course we have pizza.
Mr. Krabs.
Our delivery squid will bring it right over.
Mr. Krabs, we don't serve pizza.
Backing up.
Well, you backed up. And you know what? I think we're out of gas. And you know what else? We're in the middle of nowhere!
And you know what else? I think the pizza's getting cold.
That's just a stupid boulder.
It's not just a boulder. It's a rock.
And you know what, speaking of Squidward, let's talk about this. I've noticed that Squidward is probably not the best off financially. And it's kind of interesting because Squidward likes to pretend like he is well off financially. Most likely because he sees himself as a rival to Squilliam Fancy Pants, and every single chance he gets, he needs to try and prove himself. Proving himself by pretending to be of higher class. It is well known that Mr. Krabs doesn't really pay his employees very well, with it being documented and it actually being canon that one of their paychecks was a nickel. Why is it this, yet Squidward still manages to have a massive house, fully furnished, and everything? It's actually a pretty easy answer. It's fake. There's an episode where SpongeBob and Patrick believe that they killed Squidward, but Squidward actually comes out of the shower, and when he comes out, he looks like a ghost. SpongeBob and Patrick believe that Squidward is a ghost, and they follow his every command, as an attempt to appease his soul. One of Squidward's requests was to clean out his closet, and this happens.
How are we gonna clean up all this mess?
It's easy. Just tear this wallpaper off.
As you can see, Squidward's closet appeared to be cluttered, when in reality, it was all an illusion. It's not real. Squidward's wealth is fake. You want a little bit more evidence? Okay. When I was watching this show with my friend, he pointed out that in the episode Bubble Stand, Squidward kept on dropping down quarters left and right. You may think that because he's giving a lot of quarters, he immediately has a lot of money. Well, let me fact check you real quick. SpongeBob has a running gag in this episode, and this gag is he bites the quarters. He bit the quarter of Patrick, and nothing happened. However, when he bit Squidward's quarter, it bent, proving that the quarter was fake. I worked as a cashier before. If you're given anything above a $20 bill, what my company did was we took a little marker, and this marker would detect if the bill was fake or not. It's possible that SpongeBob is employing a similar tactic here. So the question now is, why is Squidward so poor? Because very clearly he's not getting paid much at his job, but then another question is, why doesn't he quit? And the answer is pretty simple. I think that Mr. Krabs put Squidward in debt. That's why he doesn't leave that dead-end job. Because he can't, because he owes Mr. Krabs so much money. Here's my opinion as to what happened to put Squidward in debt. I think that Mr. Krabs overpaid Squidward for his first paycheck. Squidward saw this overpayment and thought, oh my god, this is what a paycheck looks like here at the Krusty Krab? This is awesome. Let me go out and buy this expensive clarinet. He goes out, he buys a clarinet, spends all of the money that Mr. Krabs gave him. And now Mr. Krabs was like, hey, by the way, that was hella overpaid. Now you owe me all this money. And from that point onward, Squidward has been in debt with Mr. Krabs. And every single second that he tries to work the money back, Mr. Krabs just keeps going, that's coming out of your paycheck, Squidward. And guess what? Interest is probably a thing. Mr. Krabs is probably upcharging this fucker for interest on a salary that he knows he'll never be able to fucking pay off. Oh my god. Mr. Krabs, treat your employees better, please. Oh my god. This is not right, man. Moving on, I am a firm believer that in order to understand one thing, you need to understand everything. So let's go ahead and go into the history of Bikini Bottom. It is another common theory on the internet that Bikini Bottom is actually Bikini Atoll. July 1st, 1994, the Bikini Atoll was actually a result of a bunch of nuclear testing. Initially, the tests were to figure out the impact a nuclear weapon would have on a naval vessel. This meant exposing a bunch of sailors and marines to nuclear blasts that were impacting a vessel. It's a gag throughout the series that whenever there is an explosion or a really, really loud sound, footage from Bikini Atoll would play. Now, the most common theory behind Bikini Atoll is that the radiation from these blasts actually mutated all the fish into what we see in the show. However, I believe something different. This is where everything kind of comes full circle. When there's that much death in an instant, I strongly doubt that every single soul is willing to transcend either to heaven or to hell. Thus, through the Divine Comedy's layout of hell, they are trapped in Purgatory. Purgatory is basically where souls are waiting to be judged. They're not in heaven, they're not in hell, they are awaiting judgment. My belief is that Bikini Bottom consists of a bunch of lost souls trapped in Purgatory. Spongebob and Patrick come in because they were deployed by God himself to test the wills of all the individuals around them. Similar to the Archangel Samael in the biblical story of Adam and Eve. In Adam and Eve, Samael tested Adam and Eve by tempting them into going for the forbidden fruit. Samael is what we call a tempting angel, by testing the wills of the individuals. A very common theme throughout the show is that individuals will be annoyed by SpongeBob and Patrick to the point of near insanity. One such individual stands out to me the most, and that individual is Mrs. Puff. You see, I believe that Mrs. Puff wants so desperately to be an amazing driving instructor. In comes SpongeBob. Every time that she gets in the same vehicle as SpongeBob crashes the boat or destroys her entire facility. Yet the next time we see her, and sometimes it's even moments later within the same episode, everything is repaired. There was an episode in which Mrs. Puff believed that maybe if she were to pass SpongeBob without him actually truly passing, then he would be gone for good. However, moments after she dismissed SpongeBob from her school, she was driven to near insanity. She suffered from hallucinations and she saw this.
Look out, Bikini Bottom! There's a new driver on the road, and his name is SpongeBob SquarePants! SpongeBob SquarePants! SpongeBob SquarePants!
There is happy birthday! So much destruction. This reporter asks, why? Local consensus places the blame on this negligent, selfish driving instructor who... Let's not use...
No matter how hard she tries, she can never get rid of SpongeBob. And this is because SpongeBob knows his victims. SpongeBob changes his personality according to whoever he is tormenting.
Steady, Plankton. It's all gonna pay off soon enough.
E-A-R... Oh, barnacles.
What's wrong?
Gotta sharpen my pencil.
Good one, SpongeBob. But really, why don't you go ahead and make us a patty?
No, I don't really feel like it.
But I don't understand.
Patrick is a lot more subtle than SpongeBob. However, they both serve as the right hand of God in their own respect. In one episode, SpongeBob demonstrated his ability to infiltrate the dreams of those living in Bikini Bottom. No mortal can do this. There are multiple stories referenced in SpongeBob relating to heaven and hell. One of my favorite stories is the episode of Shanghai. The story being referenced is the spider's thread. In this story, a man from heaven looks upon those down in hell, and the man witnesses one in hell doing an act of kindness. So the man from heaven believes that maybe this man is worthy of transcending through the holy gates. So the man from heaven lets down a thread so that the man from hell can climb up. As the man from hell is climbing up the thread, however, many of the souls around him are climbing up the same thread as him. And the man who has been given the right to transcendence sees this as an offense, and he begins to kick those below him off of his rope. The man from heaven watches this, and he thinks this man is no longer worthy of transcending into heaven. So he cuts the thread, and the man from hell falls down along with all those who try to climb up the thread. In the episode Shanghai, it begins with SpongeBob opening a box of cereal. And on the cereal, it says that there is a free gift hidden within. Immediately after, an anchor falls through SpongeBob's roof. An anchor with a rope attached. SpongeBob panics at first and then eventually begins to appreciate this gift. Squidward, however, resents this, and he is furious that the heavens have given him this gift. Enraged, he climbs up the rope, and this rope leads to where? The Flying Dutchman's ship, which in this story represents salvation. SpongeBob and Patrick are ecstatic. Squidward, on the other hand, resents it, and the Flying Dutchman recognizes this, and he quite literally sends Squidward back into hell. Not too far off from the man from heaven who cuts the thread. When I see SpongeBob, I think to myself, this is religious. The parallels are far too similar to be ignored, and I want to wrap this video up with some facts and logic. In the episode Neptune Special, Neptune challenged SpongeBob to a cook-off. And the wager was whoever were to win this cook-off would be given godly powers. And SpongeBob won with a single cheeseburger, and he was transformed into a god by Neptune himself, and he was never shown to be turned back into a mortal. Mere episodes later, SpongeBob gives life to an inanimate object, Bubble Buddy. Is SpongeBob a god? Without a doubt, my answer is yes.